Jinnah opened her eyes to darkness. Her head throbbed with pain as she tried to make sense of where she was. The last thing she remembered was walking home from her evening class at Seoul University. There had been a strange light, then nothing. She blinked, waiting for her eyes to adjust. She was lying on a hard surface in a small room with metallic walls. The air smelled strange, clean but artificial, like a hospital but with an underlying scent she couldn't identify. "Hello," she called out, her voice bouncing off the walls. "Is anyone there?" A soft groan came from nearby. Jinnah wasn't alone. "Where are we?" asked a female voice in Korean. Jinnah crawled toward the sound. Her hand touched another person's arm. "I don't know. I can't see much. My name is Jinnah." "I'm Yuna," the other woman replied. "I was at a bus stop in Busan when something happened. A light. And then I woke up here." As their eyes adjusted, Jinnah could make out more details. The room was oval-shaped with smooth walls that seemed to glow faintly blue. There were no windows, just a single door with no handle. In the dim light, she could see they weren't alone. Several other women lay unconscious around them. A sudden hum filled the room, and the light grew brighter. Jinnah counted 12 women in total, all appearing to be in their 20s or early 30s. One by one, the others began to wake. Their confusion quickly turned to fear as they realized their situation. "We've been kidnapped," said a tall woman who introduced herself as Hannah. "But this doesn't look like any building I've ever seen." Jinnah felt along the walls, looking for some kind of switch or control. The material feels strange. Not quite metal, not quite plastic. A low rumble shook the room, and the women fell silent. It felt like movement, like being in a vehicle. "Are we on a ship?" someone asked. Before anyone could answer, the seamless door slid open with a hiss. Light flooded in, temporarily blinding them. Jinnah raised her hand to shield her eyes, and when she lowered it, she gasped. Standing in the doorway was a figure unlike anything she had ever seen. It stood nearly 7 feet tall with skin that shimmered like oil on water. Its face had 2 large, almond-shaped eyes that reflected light like mirrors. Where a mouth should be, there was a small opening surrounded by thin, quivering appendages. Behind the first figure stood 2 more identical beings. "This cannot be real," whispered Yuna, gripping Jinnah's arm so tightly it hurt. The lead figure stepped forward. When it spoke, the sound didn't come from its mouth-like opening, but seemed to form directly in Jinnah's mind. "Specimens secured. Condition optimal." The women pressed back against the far wall as the creatures entered the room. They carried small devices that emitted a soft light. "What do you want from us?" Jinnah asked, surprised at her own courage. The creature tilted its head, studying her. "It speaks. Note higher cognitive function in this one." "We are human beings," Jinnah continued. "We have families. People will look for us. Your species lacks interstellar capability." The creature replied dismissively. "You have been selected for the collection. It is an honor." One of the other creatures approached a woman who was still unconscious. It held its device over her face, and a red light bathed her features. "Stop." Hannah lunged forward, but instantly froze mid-movement as the third creature pointed a small rod at her. "Aggression noted," it said. "Apply calming protocol." A fine mist sprayed from the ceiling. Jinnah held her breath as long as she could, but eventually had to inhale. A wave of dizziness washed over her, not enough to knock her out but sufficient to make her limbs feel heavy. "What are you?" Jinnah asked, her words slurring slightly. "We are Neri," the first creature answered. "Your new masters." The door opened wider, revealing a corridor that curved out of sight. Beyond it, through a large viewing panel, Jinnah could see stars against the blackness of space, and no sign of Earth. Understanding crashed over her. They weren't on a ship at sea. They were on a spaceship. "You will be prepared for arrival at the exchange," the lead Neri continued. "The males of many species value human females for their aesthetic appeal. You will bring high status to your new owners. Fear gave way to anger in Jinnah's mind. They were being taken as some kind of exotic pets or worse. We won't cooperate, she said firmly. The Nari made a sound like water bubbling. Your cooperation is not required, only your presence. 2 more Nari entered, carrying trays with small food cubes and cups of clear liquid. Consume nutrients. The journey to the exchange takes 14 cycles. You will be taught basic commands during transit. As the creatures left, the door sealed behind them without a visible seam. Jinnah looked at the terrified faces around her and knew she needed to stay calm and think clearly. We need to learn everything we can, she whispered to the others. About them, about this ship, about where they're taking us. If we understand them, maybe we can find a way to escape. Yunha wiped tears from her face. But they're aliens. We're in space. How can we possibly escape? Jinnah reached for her hand. I don't know yet, but I do know that they've made a big mistake. They think we're just pretty faces. They don't know how strong humans can be when we work together. As if in response to her words, the ship lurched forward, carrying them deeper into the unknown. The ship slowed, and Jinnah felt her body grow lighter as gravity decreased. Through the small viewing panel in their holding room, she saw a massive structure floating in space. It looked like a giant wheel with spokes connecting to a central hub. Lights of all colors sparkled across its surface, making it resemble a carnival at night. That must be the exchange, Jinnah said to the others who had gathered around her. Over the 14-day journey, the women had formed a tight bond. Jinnah had emerged as their unofficial leader, mainly because she paid close attention to the Nari's patterns and had memorized parts of their language. What will happen to us there? Asked Yuna, who hadn't stopped trembling since their abduction. I don't know exactly, Jinnah admitted, but I've been listening to the guards. They mentioned something called the complex inside the exchange. It sounds like some kind of entertainment center. The ship docked with a gentle bump. Soon after, 4 Nari entered the holding room carrying what looked like thin metallic collars. Stand in line, one ordered telepathically. You will be processed and distributed. Jinnah translated for the few women who still couldn't understand the alien communication. They formed a line, supporting each other with gentle touches and reassuring glances. The Nari placed a collar around each woman's neck. When Jinnah's turn came, she felt a cold touch against her skin, then a pinching sensation as the device sealed itself. These are translation and tracking units, the Nari explained. Attempt to remove them, and you will experience pain. They were led through winding corridors until they reached a large airlock. When it opened, Jinnah gasped. The space beyond was enormous. A vast circular plaza filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some looked almost human, while others were so strange she could barely comprehend their forms. Welcome to the exchange, said a new voice in her mind. A tall, slender alien with pale blue skin and 4 arms approached. Unlike the Nari, this creature had a face that could express emotions, and right now it was smiling in a way that made Jinnah uncomfortable. I am Director Tak of the complex, it said. You are the new Earth collection, correct? Excellent specimens. Tak walked along the line, examining each woman like they were items in a store. When he reached Jinnah, he paused. As she hurried back to her room, Jinnah felt something she hadn't experienced since their abduction. Hope. Jinnah found the botanical garden during recreation period the next day. The space was beautiful, filled with plants from countless worlds. Some had flowers that changed colors as she watched, while others seemed to respond to sound, swaying when she spoke. Jun was waiting beside a tall blue plant with leaves that created a natural screen. He looked nervous, constantly checking over his shoulder. I've been watching for new arrivals, he told her when she approached. There are more humans here than you might think. How many? Jinnah asked, her voice low. At least 50 that I know of, spread throughout different sections of the complex. Some have been here for years, others just months. Jinnah's heart raced with excitement. Are you all working together? Planning something? Jun glanced around before answering. Yes and no. We have a network, but it's dangerous. The aliens don't think we're smart enough to organize, and that's our advantage. He showed her a small device hidden in his palm. This disrupts the listening function in our collars for about 5 minutes. After that, it needs to recharge. Jinna looked at her collar. Can it remove these? Not yet, but we're working on it. June led her deeper into the garden. There's a human engineer in the maintenance section named Taeyong. He's been studying the collar technology. As they walked, June explained more about the complex. It was owned by a consortium of wealthy alien species who collected exotic specimens from across the galaxy. Humans were relatively new additions, discovered only 5 years ago when a Nari scout ship detected Earth broadcasts. Earth doesn't know aliens exist, Jinna said. Our people must think we were kidnapped by human traffickers. Exactly, Jun replied. And the aliens want to keep it that way. They fear if Earth discovers space travel, humans might be more trouble than they're worth. They reached a small fountain where the water flowed upward instead of down. June stopped and pretended to admire it. Tonight, during your first client session, you'll meet a being named Axor. Purple skin, 4 eyes. He's a regular who likes to talk about Earth culture. He asks many questions. Why are you telling me this? Because Thor is different from the others. He believes keeping sentient beings as entertainment is wrong. He comes here to gather information about us. June's voice dropped even lower. He's part of a group called the Liberation Front. They oppose the Galactic Commerce Code that allows this place to exist. Jinna felt a surge of hope. Can he help us escape? Possibly. But we need to be careful. If the management suspects anything, they'll separate all humans permanently. The small device in June's hand began to blink red. Our time's up. The listening function will reactivate soon. Remember, act ignorant. Never show how much you understand. Before leaving, he handed her something small and round. Hide this. It's a communication bead. Press it 3 times quickly when you're alone, and I'll know you want to meet. That night, Jinna was taken to a luxurious room with soft lighting and comfortable seating. Her trainer, Q, gave her final instructions. Be interesting but respectful. Thor is a valued client who enjoys Earth philosophy and art. Speak when spoken to. Do not ask personal questions. Thor arrived minutes later, just as June had described. He had purple skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. He wore elaborate clothing that seemed to shimmer with its own light. Good evening, Thor said, his voice gentle in Jinna's mind. You are newly arrived from Earth. Yes, Jinna replied, trying to appear nervous but not terrified. My name is Jinna. For the next hour, Thor asked questions about Earth cultures, art, and social structures. Jinna answered carefully, watching for any sign that he was more than just a curious client. Finally, when a server came to refresh drinks, Axor leaned forward and spoke very softly, his mental voice barely a whisper. June sent a message. You seek to return home. Jinna's heart jumped, but she maintained her composure. Yes. There are others who share your goal. The Liberation Front believes all sentient beings should be free. Thor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. When you return to your quarters, look under your sleeping platform. There is information there. The session ended soon after. When Jinna returned to her room, she waited until the lights dimmed for sleep cycle before checking under her bed. Taped to the bottom of the frame was a thin, flexible screen that lit up at her touch. It showed a detailed map of the complex with certain areas highlighted. One section was labeled Transport Bay. Another showed Security Centers. A message scrolled across the bottom. Memorize and destroy. Jinna studied the map until she had committed it to memory, then dissolved the screen in water as instructed. Over the next 2 weeks, Jinna built connections throughout the complex. Using recreation periods and client sessions as cover, she met with other humans. Taeyong, the engineer, showed her how to temporarily disable the tracking function in their collars. Mina, who worked in the kitchen, provided information about guard rotations. During this time, Jinnah also managed to reunite with Yuna, who had been placed in the gold section as a dancer. Their brief meeting in a corridor junction was emotional. "We're planning something," Jinnah whispered to her friend. "Be ready when the time comes." Yuna nodded, her eyes now showing determination instead of fear. "The other girls are ready too. Just tell us when." By the end of the month, a loose network of 47 humans had formed throughout the complex. They communicated using June's beads and brief meetings during work shifts. SOAR provided more information through carefully orchestrated client sessions with different humans. Their plan was taking shape. The Liberation Front had a ship that could carry all of them, but getting to the transport bay undetected would require precise timing and coordination. "We need a distraction," Jinnah told June during their latest garden meeting. "Something big enough to draw security away from our escape route." June smiled for the first time since she'd met him. "I think I have just the thing." The complex's annual Cosmic Gala is next week. Every important client and most of the security staff will be in the Grand Hall. "Perfect," Jinnah said, feeling the surge of determination. "We'll make our move then." As she returned to her quarters that night, Jinnah thought about Earth. She had been in the complex for just over a month, but it felt like years. She touched her collar and made a promise to herself. Soon, they would all be free. The Cosmic Gala transformed the complex into a glittering showcase of alien wealth and power. Clients from across the galaxy arrived in elaborate vessels, dressed in their finest attire. Security was heightened, but focused mainly on the Grand Hall and VIP areas. Jinnah stood in her assigned position, wearing a shimmering dress provided for the event. Her job was to serve drinks and engage in light conversation with guests. Inside, her heart pounded with nervous energy. Tonight was the night. "Remember your positions," June had told the human network earlier that day. "At precisely 2300 hours, Taeyong will trigger the maintenance alert in the south quadrant. That's when we move." Jinnah checked the strange alien clock on the wall. 20 minutes to go. She caught glimpses of other humans throughout the hall, all playing their roles perfectly while secretly watching the time. Director Tak moved through the crowd, greeting important guests. Jinnah had learned he was actually quite powerful in galactic politics, using the complex to gain favor with influential beings. "You seem distracted," said a voice beside her. Jinnah turned to find SOAR standing there, his 4 eyes blinking slowly. He was dressed more elaborately than usual, with a cape that seemed to contain moving stars. "The gala is overwhelming," she replied carefully. SOAR nodded slightly. "My associates are in position. When the lights flicker, move quickly." Before she could respond, he drifted away to mingle with other guests. Jinnah took a deep breath and continued serving drinks. At exactly 2300 hours, a loud alarm blared from the south quadrant. Security personnel moved swiftly toward the sound, communicating urgently through their devices. Moments later, the lights throughout the complex flickered, then dimmed to emergency levels. Guests murmured in confusion. Some seemed annoyed, others concerned. Jinnah set down her tray and moved casually toward the service exit. In the corridor beyond, she broke into a run, heading for the predetermined meeting point. Along the way, other humans emerged from various rooms and hallways, joining her in silent determination. When she reached the junction leading to the maintenance section, Taeyong was waiting with a small group. His face was tense, but his hands were steady as he worked on a control panel. "Security protocols are switching to manual override," he explained. "We have about 15 minutes before they realize it's not a simple power fluctuation." Jinnah nodded. "Is everyone accounted for?" "Almost. We're still waiting for the gold section group." Jinnah felt a stab of worry. Yunha was part of that group. "I'll go check the alternate route," she decided quickly. She hurried through dimly lit corridors, avoiding the main pathways where security might be patrolling. When she reached the gold section junction, she found the problem immediately. Two guards were blocking the path, preventing the dancers from leaving. Yunhe saw Jin-Ah from behind a column and signaled frantically. Jin-Ah needed to create a diversion. Looking around, she spotted a control panel similar to the one Taeyong had been working on. Following what she had observed him do, she pulled off the cover and yanked out several colored wires. Instantly, sprinklers activated throughout the corridor, spraying everyone with emergency cooling foam. The guards looked up in confusion, momentarily distracted. "Now!" Jin-Ah shouted. Yunhe led the dancers in a rush past the guards, who were too surprised to react quickly. By the time they reached for their weapons, the humans were already racing down the corridor. "This way." Jin-Ah guided them toward the maintenance section. When they arrived, Jun was helping the last few humans climb through a service shaft that would lead them to the transport bay. He looked relieved when he saw Jin-Ah and the dancers. "Quickly," he urged. "The Liberation Front ship is docking now, but they can only hold position for 7 minutes." One by one, the humans entered the shaft. Jin-Ah helped Yuna go through, then turned to make sure everyone was accounted for. "What about the collars?" someone asked nervously. "Won't they track us?" "Taeyong has a solution for that," Jun promised. On the ship, just as Jin-Ah was about to enter the shaft herself, alarms began blaring throughout the complex. The escape had been discovered. "Security lockdown initiating," announced an automated voice. "All specimens return to quarters immediately." Jin-Ah felt the collar around her neck grow warm. It would soon activate its restraint function. "We need to go now." Jun pushed her toward the shaft. They crawled through the narrow space as quickly as possible, emerging into a dimly lit cargo area. Ahead, through a large bay door, Jin-Ah could see the Liberation Front ship, sleek and dark against the stars. Taeyong stood at the bay door controls, working frantically as the other humans rushed past him onto the ship's extended boarding ramp. "The system is fighting me," he explained as Jin-Ah and Jun approached. "They're trying to close the bay doors remotely." Jin-Ah looked back. Through the viewport into the main corridor, she could see security forces approaching rapidly. "We need more time," she said, making a quick decision. She grabbed Taeyong's tool and handed it to Jun. "Get everyone on board. I'll hold them off." Jin-Ah. "No," Jun protested. "Someone has to delay them, or none of us will escape," she insisted. "I'll be right behind you." Before he could argue further, she ran to another control panel and began ripping out wires and connections. Emergency barriers slammed down across the corridor, temporarily blocking the security forces. Her collar was now painfully hot against her skin, the restraint function trying to activate. She ignored it and continued working, sealing more doors and rerouting systems. When she looked up again, Jun was at the edge of the ramp, waving frantically. "Jin-Ah, now." Security had begun cutting through the emergency barriers. She had maybe 30 seconds. Jin-Ah ran for the ship, her lungs burning and the collar sending waves of pain through her body. The ramp was already beginning to retract as she leaped onto it, Jun catching her arm and pulling her inside just as the bay doors started to close. "Everyone's here," Yumha cried with joy as Jin-Ah collapsed onto the floor of the ship. Taeyong knelt beside her with a device that he pressed against her collar. There was a click, and suddenly the pain stopped as the collar fell away. Outside, security forces poured into the transport bay, weapons raised. But they were too late. The Liberation Front ship sealed its hatches and accelerated away from the complex, carrying 47 liberated humans toward freedom. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Jin-Ah looked out a viewport at the rapidly shrinking speck that was the complex. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to smile with genuine hope. "We're going home," she whispered. The Liberation Front ship moved through space at incredible speed. Jin-Ah sat in the observation deck, watching stars streak by like lines of light. After 2 days of travel, her body still felt strange without the collar. She kept touching her neck, expecting to feel the cold metal. "It takes time to adjust," said Xor, joining her by the viewport. Unlike in the complex, here he spoke as an equal. "Freedom can feel uncomfortable when you've been captive." Jinnah nodded. "Where exactly are we going?" "You said you would take us home, but Earth is our destination," Xor confirmed. "But there are complications." He explained that returning 47 humans would create questions Earth wasn't ready to answer. The existence of alien life would become undeniable, potentially causing global panic. "We must be careful with first contact situations," Xor said. "Your world is at a delicate stage of development." Jinnah considered this. "So we can't just land in the middle of Seoul?" "Not quite." Xor's 4 eyes blinked in what Jinnah now recognized as amusement. "But we have a plan." The plan, as Jinnah learned in a meeting with all the rescued humans, was both simple and bold. The Liberation Front had contacts within Earth's scientific community, researchers who already suspected alien existence and had been discreetly preparing humanity for eventual contact. "These scientists have created a cover story," explained Mila, a human woman who had been with the Liberation Front for years. "They've documented a supposed secret research facility where you were all allegedly held. A human trafficking ring," added June, "hidden in a remote location. It explains your disappearances without revealing the truth about aliens." Some of the rescued humans protested. They wanted to tell the world what had really happened, about the complex, the Galactic Alliance, everything. "I understand," Jinnah told them. "But think about it. Would Earth governments believe us? Or would they lock us away to study us, thinking we're crazy or compromised?" After much debate, all agreed to the cover story. But Jinnah had one more question for Xor. "What about the complex? Won't they come looking for us?" Xor's expression turned serious. "The Liberation Front has exposed the complex's activities to the Galactic Alliance Council. There is significant evidence that they violated multiple laws, including taking sentience from uncontacted worlds. An investigation has begun." "Will that be enough to stop them?" Jinnah asked. "Perhaps not entirely," Xor admitted. "But Earth is now on our watch list. Any ship approaching your planet will trigger alerts throughout our network." 5 days later, the ship entered Earth's solar system. They traveled cloaked, invisible to Earth's primitive detection systems, and descended into the atmosphere during night over a remote area in northern Canada. A small group of humans waited below with vehicles. As Jinnah stepped onto Earth soil for the first time in months, she breathed deeply, savoring the cool, natural air. "The cover operation begins now," Mila explained as they boarded the waiting vehicles. "You'll be discovered by authorities tomorrow morning. The scientists have prepared medical records showing prolonged captivity. Your stories need to match." Jinnah sat next to Yuna as their vehicle drove through the dark forest. "Are you ready for this?" she asked her friend. Yuna took her hand. "I'm just happy to be home, even if we can't tell the whole truth." The next morning played out exactly as planned. Police and federal agents discovered the traumatized abductees at a compound deep in the wilderness. News helicopters captured footage of women being led to ambulances, blankets over their shoulders. The story dominated global headlines. International trafficking ring busted. Dozens of women rescued. Jinnah gave her statement to authorities, following the script carefully. Yes, they had been taken by human traffickers. No, they didn't know exactly where they had been held. The captors had drugged them frequently. They were forced to entertain wealthy clients. It wasn't entirely false, just missing the crucial detail that those clients weren't human. 3 weeks later, after medical evaluations and debriefings, Jinnah returned to her family in Korea. The reunion was emotional. Her parents had aged years in the months she'd been gone. They had never lost hope, they told her, even when police suggested they should prepare for the worst. Jinnah tried to return to normal life. She re-enrolled at university, moved back into her apartment, and pretended that nightmares of the complex didn't wake her most nights. The rescued humans stayed connected through a secure network provided by their Liberation Front allies. They shared their struggles with readjustment and supported each other through the difficult transition. 6 months after their return, Jinnah met June at a quiet cafe in Seoul. He looked different in normal Earth clothes, more relaxed, but somehow also more serious. "I've been recruited," he told her quietly. "The scientists who helped us, they're part of something bigger." "What do you mean?" "Earth's first official contact team," June explained. "Preparing for the day when we can't hide the truth anymore. They need people who understand what's out there." Jinnah considered this. "And they want you to join." "They want all of us," June said. "Our experience is invaluable. We know their languages, their cultures, their technology." Jinnah looked out the window at the busy Seoul street. People walked by, focused on their phones, their jobs, their everyday concerns. None of them knew that humans had already traveled among stars, or that other intelligent life watched their planet with interest. "The Nari thought humans were just pretty decorations," Jinnah said quietly. "They never expected us to organize, to resist, to escape." June nodded. "That's why we need to be ready. Next time, Earth won't be caught unprepared." Jinnah thought about the complex, about the stars she had seen, about Xor and the Liberation Front. She thought about all the other species out there, some friendly, some not. "Tell them I'm in," she said finally. "We all survived for a reason. Maybe this is it." That night, Jinnah looked up at the stars from her apartment balcony. Somewhere out there, a galactic community continued its complex politics and commerce. Somewhere, the complex perhaps still operated, though perhaps more carefully now. But Earth was no longer just an unaware world full of potential specimens. It had advocates now, humans who knew the truth and were preparing for the day when Earth would take its place among the stars. Jinnah smiled. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They had underestimated humanity, and they would never make that mistake again.